Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. This is the postgame podcast for the Timberwolves lost the Lakers on Thursday night. We're going to talk ejection and suspension. We'll talk TJ Shannon. What happened to the Wolves in this game? They fell behind by 20 plus once again, and we're going to break it all down. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend. It is another Timberwolves game day. The Wolves have yet another back-to-back after having one Sunday, Monday this week. They've got a Friday, Saturday road back-to-back tonight in Salt Lake. We're going to talk Lakers game, though, from Thursday night. A lot to unpack in this one. A winnable game that they kicked away. Still impressive performances from Lakers stars. The Lakers played well defensively, but a lot of Wolves issues in this one. And, of course, we'll talk Ant. We'll talk the officiating, yes. But I want to start with some bigger picture, like more an analysis of how the game went related to the Timberwolves, I guess, lack of preparedness at the beginning of the game, or at least lack of looking like they wanted to be there at the start of the game. We'll talk a bit about how they made their comeback in the middle stages. They were down by as many as 23, but got this back to a possession. And then what happened late as the Lakers pulled away from the Wolves. So we'll break all that down. Yes, we'll acknowledge the free throw disparity. We'll acknowledge the officiating. We'll acknowledge the Anthony Edwards situation. We'll probably hit Ant here in the first segment, and then I'll get to the officiating a little bit later because it wasn't great. It's not the only thing to talk about from this game. So a lot to cover today. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And a reminder, you can subscribe to the Locked On Wolves newsletter at lockedondaily.com. It's one stop for ultimate Wolves coverage, ultimate NBA coverage delivered right to your inbox Monday through Friday. Sign up for free right now at lockedondaily.com. All right. So the Timberwolves come into this game, of course, no Rudy Gobert. He's still out. Still no Julius Randle, but it is the return of Donte DiVincenzo after missing the last roughly 6 weeks, actually. And the Wolves did okay with him out. Like they were, I think 11-8 was the record. I think he missed 19 games. And, of course, when DiVincenzo went out, he was in the starting lineup. They brought him back off the bench, presumably a minutes restriction of some sort. I haven't seen the postgame with Chris Finch yet, but he only played 23 minutes. He played really well. He actually had the best plus-minus of any Timberwolves player, third best plus-minus of anyone in the game in this one, a plus 15 and 23 minutes off the bench. I thought Donte played very well. He also had 6 assists and no turnovers. But return of DiVincenzo was very nice to see. Again, still no Randle, still no Gobert. The Lakers relatively healthy. Earlier this year, the Wolves played them with no LeBron. Of course, it was before the Luka trade. No Jared Vanderbilt. Those guys are all back. Luka was on the floor. LeBron was on the floor, and they both played fairly well. LeBron was awesome in this game. So, according to FanDuel, the Lakers were on FanDuel, the Lakers were 5.5-point favorites in this game. They ended up winning by 9. And early, it looked like the Wolves were going to lose by 19. It looked like there was no interest in the Timberwolves on the Timberwolves part of being at the game at all. They had 13 points midway through the first quarter. They finished the first quarter with 17 points. They were down 16 after the first frame. It just almost no competitiveness for Minnesota. The bench unit did better than the starters. Jalen Clark was started, fourth start in his career, got into early foul trouble. Ant was bad early. Nas was bad throughout. Jaden did nothing scoring wise until the second half. So it was really the bench that had to carry them offensively. A little bit of TJ Shannon early, a little bit of Nikhil. I think Donte hit an early 3. It was limited offense, we'll call it. So down 16 going to the second quarter. Eventually, though, the Wolves started to play harder defensively. The Lakers only had 12 turnovers for the game, but the Wolves turned them over, were pretty opportunistic in the second quarter and got some easy offense going the other way. And also ran a bit after defensive rebounds, which is not super in character for Minnesota. and they were able to get themselves some easier buckets in transition and semi-transition. And the half-court offense started to look a little bit more fluid. And they were down like 15 still late second quarter. But Ant went on a bit of a run himself. He got fouled, hit a couple free throws, saw the ball go through the net, and then hit a tough three. And ended up Minnesota was a +5 for the quarter, and they were down 9 at halftime. They were down 11 at halftime, actually. And then in the third quarter, Anthony Edwards, I should mention, end of the first quarter, Ant got a technical foul in a bit of a shoving match with Jared Vanderbilt. It looked like, based on the replay, that DiVincenzo and Vanderbilt like inadvertently crossed paths, and Vando like bumped DiVincenzo's elbow. He turned around and said something. Vanderbilt said something. And then Ant got in between and gave Vanderbilt a shove. Of course, former teammates. Vando shoves Ant back. They both get technicals, and that's it. It was pretty weak in the moment for the officials to bother to call anything there. Like, play's dead, just tell them to go to their huddles. Like, I mean, like, maybe we don't know exactly what was said. Maybe the refs weren't aware that those guys were teammates. Like, who cares? It just seems silly that, like, it's not the middle of the play. It's dead ball situation. Just tell them to go back to the bench. Why bother call the double technical? They do. Ant gets one technical there. And then in the third quarter, Ant gets bumped. I forget who it was. It might have been Austin Reeves. And honestly, could have been called for an offensive foul, I thought, with the off arm. But it had to have been something. It was a foul on somebody. Ant falls down and slides, and they don't call anything at all. And then he complains while he's sitting on the floor, and the Lakers are trying to time out for a jump ball. And referee Brent Barnaky calls him for a technical, which then was his second of the game. He was ejected. Ant doesn't leave the floor. He throws the ball into the stands, which is undoubtedly a big fine. He's already been fined a ton this year. So my take on the Ant thing, I'll give that quickly now. Obviously selfish. It's at the point, and I understand the frustration. I've talked about it a lot on this show. Ant does not flop around like insert star player here. The Lucas, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders, James Harden's of the world. Like, he doesn't play that way. He plays through contact. He's like a running back. Guys bounce off of him. Sometimes contact doesn't impact him. The one I'll never forget is the marginal contact in the last 2-minute report from the SGA play last year, where SGA is literally gripping his arm. It's not just like a tap, which is a foul. It's like his hand was wrapped around Ant's forearm on a dunk, and it was called marginal contact because it didn't impact the dunk attempt, because Ant is really strong. It's the Shaq syndrome. It really is. He doesn't get calls. I get it. The first technical was weak. Don't get involved, Ant, but it was a weak call. The second one, also weak. The throwing the ball in the stands thing, but Ant's got to be smarter because he's already got the one technical, right? Like, he can't put himself in that situation. And then throwing the ball in the stands, I guess, as long as he's not suspended another game for that, if he's just fined, I guess, fine. It's his money, right? Like, it just doesn't, it's not a great look. It's kind of tantrumy. But look, I get it. I get Ant's frustration. And the technicals were both weak. They just were. And I haven't seen Chris Finch's post game yet. I don't know what he said about it, but Ant has to think smarter than that. The Wolves were kind of on the upswing in this game, and it halted a little bit of momentum in the moment. And now he's been suspended for the Utah game on Friday night because it was his 16th tech of the year. And now for every 2 technicals after this, when he gets to 18, when he gets to 20, when he gets to 22, it's another game suspension. And he can't have that. I do want to talk about the officiating. I'm not there yet. We'll do that next segment because we got to talk about what happened at the end of the game. And I want to talk about a couple of kind of bigger picture issues in this one for Minnesota. I will address the officiating. It's all upcoming. I want to close with individual studs and duds. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. For instance, I love using the live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Maybe you thought the Wolves were going to come all the way back in this Lakers game. I don't know what that line got down to live, but that would have been fun. Or maybe you're just backing the late game rally. You think it's going to happen, Ant's going to hit a clutch three. Not Ant tonight because he's not going to play, but maybe it's TJ Shannon's going to come up with a big play. You never have to feel like you missed your chance. You have the opportunity to stay in the game. Plus, the app is easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. By the way, the Wolves are 3-point favorites at Utah, even with no Ant on Friday night as of right now on FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can win $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so after Ant was ejected in the third quarter, the Timberwolves were still down. I think it was hovering around double digits at that point. This thing, like the Wolves just kept chipping away. And the fourth quarter was just a TJ Shannon onslaught. It was a little bit shades of the OKC game. The Lakers were missing a bunch of shots, but I actually thought it was a little bit different because the way the Lakers approach things, the way OKC approaches things is different. The fourth quarter started with Minnesota down 11, and then they were quickly down 13. There was the Austin Reeves three-point attempt with the foul called on Jalen Clark. He swears he didn't touch him. Upon review, it's still unclear to me if he actually touched him. The officials said he did on the replay. I think they would have been better off saying it was inconclusive because it, to me, was not conclusive. He touched him. But I guess I get if you can't prove he didn't touch him, which is why that's a tough challenge to win. Unless you could prove he did not touch him, they can't really overturn it. So, well, I think it was a bad call and worded poorly by, I think it was James Williams in the arena, the referee and crew chief. The Wolves lose the challenge. Lakers go back up by 14. And then you kind of get this back and forth, like LeBron misses a bunch of shots. TJ Shannon then goes off. TJ Shannon goes off. Dante hits a three mixed in there. Shannon scores a bunch of points in a row. The Wolves get it down to 4 points with just under 7 minutes to play. So actually, let's do this. 6.5 minutes to play. Wolves down 4. TJ Shannon in the open floor after a miss from Austin Reeves. The Wolves have an opportunity to get it to within 1 or 2 points. Shannon tries a whirling dervish spin after being awesome the last 5 minutes, scoring a ton of points. Bad decision in the open floor. The ball gets stolen. On the other end, Naz gets called for a shooting foul, which appeared to be the right call with the body. The block looked clean, but there was probably a blocking foul. Naz turns around and the cameras caught him saying, you need to call that on the other end too. He gets a technical for that, which I don't know. Every elementary school, middle school, high school coach in every game across America says that in every game and doesn't get called for a technical. I don't even think he swore, just based on the clip I saw. And he gets a technical. The Lakers hit the technical, but then miss the other free throws. So it's still just a 5-point game. Or sorry, make the technical, but Vanderbilt misses the 2 free throws. The Wolves are still within 5. They come down. Naz gets a wide open 3-point attempt and misses. Then the Lakers come down. Gabe Vincent misses a 3. The Wolves come back down. TJ Shannon turns it over again. Maybe that was the whirling dervish turnover. At any rate, he had 2 turnovers in a span of a minute with the Wolves within 4 or 5 points. TJ Shannon did. And sandwiched around the Naz technical and the Naz open miss 3. And that's where the game shifts. Jaden still hits a bucket the next time down. The Wolves get to within 3, but then JJ Redick calls a timeout. The Lakers never look back. The Wolves are within 3. They never got closer than 4 the rest of the way. They pushed it to 7 with just over 3 minutes to play, and then back to 7 with just over 2 minutes to play. Got all the way to 8 with 2 minutes left, and that was basically it. So that was their opportunity, and they blew it. It was just the missed open 3 from Naz and a couple turnovers from a rookie who played extremely well in this game. And then it was Luka and LeBron down the stretch. Of course, there was that nutso Luka 3 from the left wing, which is actually Ant's spot above the break over there. That was the end of the shot clock to push it from 95 to 91. It was still just a 4-point game. I should also note Naz missed a free throw mixed in there too. That could have made it a 3-point game again. Instead, it's a 4-point game. Luka beats the shot clock with the 3 to push it to 7. And TJ Shannon scored right out of the timeout on the next possession, but the Wolves never got closer than 5 the rest of the way. So tough end for Minnesota without Ant available, of course. Overall, not really a game they deserved to win, especially with the way that they started. Good resiliency showed throughout for sure. what was interesting in this game, the Wolves won fast break points 23-7. The Lakers only turned it over 13 times, which is just one more time than Minnesota. The Wolves did a good job not turning it over. The Lakers don't generate a lot of turnovers anyway, but turnover battle was close, but the Wolves won fast break points 23-7. They were running consistently early, often in this game, and that was really a smart approach. They lost the rebound battle by 11. They give up 16 offensive rebounds to the Lakers. And if you give up 17 boards to a 40-year-old LeBron James, not ideal. That's what happened in this game. They also give up 13 rebounds to Luka Doncic. Those two combined for 30 of the Lakers' 52 rebounds, which is just crazy. And just, I mean, they're both just big dudes, right? The Wolves got 12 from Reid, 8 from Jaden McDaniels, 6 from Ant, and nobody else had more than 5. Minnesota was out-rebounded by 11. The one that really kind of killed me for this in this game, the Lakers won points in the paint by 2, 44-42. The Lakers attempted 20 more free throws than Minnesota. So this would imply, it doesn't mean for sure, because if you're fouled in the paint and you don't make the shot, it doesn't count as a shot attempt, right? However, the Lakers only had 2 more points in the paint, but they attempted 20 more free throws. So it's not that the Lakers were being that much more aggressive getting downhill than Minnesota, and each team shot 41 threes too, right? So it's not like the Wolves were jacking threes and the Lakers were getting downhill, getting to the rim and playing good old-fashioned hard-nosed basketball. That's not what this was. The Wolves and Lakers each shot 41 three-pointers. The Wolves and Lakers had 42 and 44 points in the paint, respectively, and the LA Lakers shot 20 more free throws than Minnesota. And here's the thing. I thought the Lakers deserved to shoot more free throws. I actually don't think the actual letter of the law calls in this game were that bad. The problem was the way it started. Luka got 2 or 3 of those calls where he pump fakes, the defender starts to move into his space, but then stops and stays straight up and down. There's marginal contact. There it is, actual marginal contact, and they call a foul. And there was at least one against Jalen Clark where I'm not sure there was any contact, and they still call a foul on the Timberwolves. And there were 2 of those plays where Luka clearly pushes off first. He pushes off, he stops, pump fakes, the player's recovering from the push-off, so they lean in because they're recovering from the push-off. Then he stops, goes up again, gets the body contact in the free throws. And I watched the replay, and Chris Finch, after the play, was complaining to the official about the push-off. I think that was the Jalen Clark one. There was also a Jaden one like that. It's Luka's, it's what he does. And the fact that he keeps getting away with that sort of a play and doesn't get called for it very frequently is pretty mind-boggling. And like that set the tone, because from that point forward, they kind of had to call almost everything that was close. And the Lakers played a little bit more physically than Minnesota. They did not deserve 20 more free throws than the Timberwolves. And it was pretty unwatchable down the stretch. It felt like both teams, it's almost like the refs were trying to even out the free throw attempts when the Wolves had the ball. The problem was the Lakers shot so many early that they could never catch up. And again, Lakers shoot 46 free throws. The Wolves shot 26. And really, the only reason this game was as close as it was, the Lakers missed 14 free throws in this game. The Lakers missed 14 free throws, which is almost 2.5 times as many as the Wolves missed. The Wolves were only 20-26. They missed 6 themselves, but the Lakers just attempted so many more freebies than Minnesota. That was an issue. And I already talked about the Ant thing in the first segment. Like, I don't think Ant is officiated fairly. I just don't. He's not. And I know the Wolves send clips to the league office. I know it's an ongoing thing. I know Chris Finch has complained about it. I just don't know. I don't know what the Wolves could do at this point, what Anthony Edwards can do. It's just the league is rewarding guys that are selling these calls and not rewarding guys that play through contact. And it's why, Shaq would get frustrated in different ways than Ant. Ant's getting frustrated because he's not getting these same calls he's seen other stars get. And I sympathize with that for sure. However, Ant has to keep his head a little bit better. All right, we talked points to the paint. We talked 3-point shooting was roughly the same on both sides. They each attempted 41. The Wolves were 12 of 41. The Lakers were 11 of 41. Bad shooting for both teams from the field and outside the arc and from the free throw line, really. Credit the Lakers defense. Again, physical early. I thought they did a good job of putting 2 on Ant and forcing him into tough shots. So I have to credit the Lakers there. And I thought the Wolves had an okay game plan. I mean, Jalen Clark defended Luka well. It's just the foul trouble got to him. Luka had 21 points, but it took him 20 shots to do it. It was that big three late. It was the only three he made. He was 1 for 9 on 3-pointers. LeBron and Luka themselves combined to shoot 22 free throws. Austin Reeves had 12 also in this game. All right. I want to close by talking studs and duds. We'll put a bow on it, and we'll peek ahead to what's next for the Wolves. That's all upcoming here now. All right. So individual studs and duds for the Wolves. TJ Shannon was pretty much hands down the best player on the floor for Minnesota. I yesterday on the show, on Thursday's show, I spent some time on Jalen Clark, actually the whole first segment, because he had just signed the standard deal, getting promoted from a 2-way contract. So I actually read my scouting report from him and talked through like what I really liked about him as a prospect. I may as well do that now with Terrence Shannon. I think I have it, actually. Let me make sure I actually have it in front of me. I was pretty sure I added this document. Oh, yeah. It's shorter. I have less on him. TJ Shannon, coming out, like, he played exactly like you'd expect him to play, what I thought he would be as a prospect. He's a big physical wing. He's 6'7" wing. He's 6'7" with a nearly 6'9" wingspan. What I said about him is he's got an NBA body. He absorbs contact well. He's great in transition. Not a consistent half-court creator or scorer, but great in transition, can defend well, good steal rate in college. But again, can he be consistent in the NBA? That's the short version. And after they drafted him, I remember saying, like, hey, I like the pick if that's the plan, is just to turn him loose in transition. But I thought there were other guys on the board I liked more that could be better kind of rotation glue type guys for Minnesota. Well, guess what? The Wolves wanted to play faster this year, and TJ Shannon is the recipe to do that. Like, he was a gear and a half faster than anybody else on the floor in this game. And he offensively was pretty much the single reason the Wolves got back into this game. He had 25 points. Nobody else on the Wolves scored more than 18. He was second on the team in shot attempts with 15, 9 of 15 shooting, 1 of 3 on threes, got to the line 6 times, made all his free throws, also had 5 rebounds. Remember, he had 10 against OKC on Monday. 2 assists, was a plus 11, the second best mark on the team next to Donte DiVincenzo. And like I said with the scouting report, transition, he's just going to run you over. And I said this the other night, he's going to get called for like a charge a game because he just runs guys over. I don't think he got called for one in this game. But you'll take it because so often it works. And he's got such, for playing as fast as he does and getting ahead of steam like he does, to be able to still have enough touch to score around the rim and enough body control to be able to be fouled and score or draw the foul or finish through contact is pretty incredible. I still don't know that he's going to be a consistent half-court scorer. He had that layup after the timeout late in the game, which was a nice one-on-one move. But again, it was just get your head and shoulders past someone, put your head down, and jet to the rim. That's going to be his game, and that should work to an extent. Again, not a consistent half-court scorer or certainly not a creator, but as kind of a slasher 3-and-D type guy who's going to, he hasn't shown a whole lot as a three-point shooter in his very, very, very young career so far. He's more of a volume, distance, long range type guy than he is an actual sharpshooter. But like, he's going to be playing at the breakneck speed, be a high variance type guy, bring you the energy. He did that in the comeback against OKC Monday and in the almost comeback against Lakers on Thursday, kind of the same deal. Donte DiVincenzo only played 23 minutes, but given how poorly some of the other individuals on the team played, he gets a stud as well. 9 points and 6 assists in just 23 minutes, 6 assists and 0 turnovers, a team best plus 15 plus minus, 3 of 6 shooting, all 3-point attempts. I thought he looked comfortable in his first game back from the toe injury. So a nice game from Donte DiVincenzo. My third stud, this is a tough one because, like I said, nobody really played all that well. Part of me wants to go Jaden for how he played late, but part of me doesn't want to because how he played early. I think I'm going to go with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I know he only shot 2 of 8 from 3 and 4 of 10 overall. He had 14 points on 10 shots. He had a couple assists. He also had a steal and a block. He was kind of everywhere, and I thought he played hard. I thought he was effective defensively. He got to the line 7 times, a team high 7 free throw attempts. He only made 4 of them, but I thought what he did in this game was positive overall. And I want to call that out. I think he played a solid game despite what some of those box score numbers might tell you. Duds, Naz Reid, rough game for Naz. Yeah, he got 12 boards, but he scored 3 points on 1 of 10 shooting. 0 of 5 outside the arc. Did not make a three-pointer in this game. Was 1 of 2 at the line, 2 assists, but he had 3 turnovers. This very well probably is the worst game he's played all season. He hasn't scored single digits since February 1st. Before that, you'd have to go back to January 4th. So he's only scored in single digits 3 times in the last 2 months. And he did it a little more frequently in December. His minutes were a little bit lower. But this is the lowest scoring output he's had in a single game this year. He had a couple of 4-point games earlier this season. Take that back. He scored 2 points against Toronto on November 21st. So the second lowest scoring night of the season, but extremely low with no Julius Randle and no Rudy Gobert. That means the Timberwolves front court in this game, the Timberwolves, like real front court players, centers, scored a total of 4 points. Luka Garza had 1 point. Naz Reid had 3 points. Jaden had 15 as the starting power forward, but it took 18 shots to do it. He was 1 of 5 on threes. Not going to give him a dud because he came on strong late, but did not play great. And really, the Wolves, like, those are your bigs, right? It's Luka Garza, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels. I have to go back and look, but I mean, like, I don't know that anybody else actually would have played power forward minutes. I mean, TJ Shannon, a small ball role could. I don't know that he did it in this game, but like that's kind of it. There just weren't bigs. And I mean, it's why for the Lakers, Jackson Hayes actually ended up playing 23 minutes, which is more than I thought. Part of that's because Rui Hachimura got hurt partway through the game, but the Lakers aren't exactly a massive team either. And I said in the preview that I didn't think Jackson Hayes would play that much because if Rudy Gobert didn't play, and that ended up basically being the case. So, yeah, so that's what we'll do. We'll go studs for TJ Shannon, DiVincenzo, and Alexander Walker. Dud in this game is Naz Reid. I'm not going to give one to Jalen Clark because I thought the foul calls were a little unfair, but he did not play well in this game because of that. 17 minutes, 1 of 3 shooting, did not record a single stat in the box score besides his made shot from 3-point range and his 5 personal fouls. No rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks in 17 minutes for Jalen Clark. So a bit of a disappointing performance there. Next up for the Wolves, they're in Salt Lake City on Friday night to take on Utah. Sans Anthony Edwards because of the suspension imposed by the 16th technical foul he's gotten this year. So they're at Utah. It's an 8:30 p.m. Central tip. And then they're back in action again on Sunday at Phoenix. That's an ESPN game at 8:30 Central. I will do the post-game pod on Monday. So the next show will be focused on that game, not so much the Jazz game from Friday, unless something crazy happens and we have to cover it on Monday's show. Of course, the post-game, the live postcast following the games is over at Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube, and you can find the audio here on the Locked On Wolves audio feed. In fact, the episode before this is our guys Luke and Jack talking Wolves Lakers. There will be another episode following Wolves Utah Friday night, and then also following Wolves Suns on Sunday. I'll be back on Monday, early on Monday morning, with the post-game podcast from Wolves at Phoenix. Certainly some winnable games upcoming. Utah, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Charlotte, all under 500 teams. Then Miami, San Antonio, kind of the same deal there. And then at Denver, March 12th, that's almost 2 weeks away, is the next above 500 team the Wolves are going to play. So opportunity to make some hay here to build on being 4 games above 500. Their high watermark this year was 7 games above 500, which they achieved shortly before the All-Star break after they beat Portland on that little 3-game winning streak. So try and get back there. They're now 3 games behind that pace. So we'll see where this goes after Utah and Phoenix this weekend. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. You can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. You can also subscribe to the daily Locked On Wolves podcast, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox daily, Monday through Friday. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. Of course, the Locked On Wolves podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.